Hello friends, this talk is about simpler ways for small meetings with ideas gathered from talking with friends across Britain in the Simpler Meetings project. I'm Jonathan Carmichael. I'm a Quaker from Watford Meeting in Hertfordshire in the east of England. First of all, how many small meetings are there? Here's a chart of all the 460 local meetings in Britain in 2019. And they're here in size order, showing how many people typically were at meeting on a Sunday morning. So on the left, there are a few big ones, and then it quickly comes down into the 30s and 20s, and then we get down to 10, 8, 7 on the right. And here's the halfway point, 14. So half of local meetings in Britain have 14 or fewer at meeting on a Sunday. And meanwhile, over on the left-hand side, about a quarter of Quakers who meet on the Sunday morning are just in 43 meetings. Those 10% of the biggest meetings. It's tempting to design our ways to fit those meetings at the big end of the spectrum. But today we're looking at the small meetings, that half on the right. And it's really important to find ways that work for these smaller meetings. You may remember from the fundamentals topic in this series that there are lots of possibilities for how meetings can do things differently, and more permission to do things like this than many Quakers are aware of. For example, Quaker Faith and Practice 433 says, meetings differ greatly in size, thus the scope of work undertaken will vary, but every local meeting will give due respect to Quaker values, testimonies and practice, and will provide regular opportunities for public worship. And before it then has a list, it says, the following responsibilities need to be considered by every local meeting, although some of them may best be fulfilled in conjunction with another local meeting or through the area meeting. See, it talks about be considered. You don't have to do everything as a small meeting. You don't have to do everything on your own. You don't have to do things the way that a larger meeting or your last meeting does things. You don't have to have lots of roles. In a moment, I'll give some ideas of what is essential to be a local meeting in Britain. But first, what's the difference between a local meeting and a worshipping group? Well, in Britain Yearly Meeting, a local meeting is the smallest unit that we have. We no longer have recognised meetings, just local meetings. And as we'll see, local meetings can be a lot simpler than some people think. Quaker Faith and Practice also talks about worshipping groups, though it doesn't give a sort of solid definition for that at all. And here's one way of looking at this. The major distinction is that a local meeting needs to be offering worship that's open to the public, that column in the middle, while a worshipping group can be private. A local meeting may have one main meeting. It's often on a Sunday morning, but not always. And some have a midweek meeting as well. Some local meetings have a satellite meeting in another location, again for public worship. It might be at the same time as the main meeting, or it might be another time. Satellite meeting isn't a formal phrase at all, but it's in common use, and you get an idea from it. And the local meeting could have one or more worshipping groups meeting too. Worshipping groups can also be under the care of the area meeting or another Quaker body, or they might not be under the care of any meeting at all. However, it's very much encouraged that worshipping groups are part of a local or an area meeting. Thinking now again about the local meeting. What is it that's essential to be a local meeting? Well, there seem to be 6 key things to highlight. Meeting for worship that's open to the public. So if it's only private, that's not really doing what we need to do as a local meeting. A local meeting must be known and be able to be found. So it must be publicised and visible. It needs to be a community, welcoming, doing things together, caring together. it's more than just coming together to worship and going away again. Also, a local meeting needs to be connected to other Quakers through the area meeting, through neighbouring meetings, and in wider Quaker networks. It must have a clerk or a convener. I say or. Having someone who's always the clerk is not essential, but business meetings do need to be clerked. You need to have at least a convener, someone to get together and that people can contact. And having a clerk or a convener is deliberately written that way in Quaker Faith and Practice. The sixth one is holding meetings under the Quaker business method. But this doesn't mean to have one every month or even every 3 months. Everything else can be worked out in different ways, like pastoral or spiritual care, either locally or with your area meeting and with neighbouring meetings. For example, 436 in Quaker Faith and Practice says, other appointments may be helpful. And 435 it says, there can be friends to share these responsibilities. So thinking about all that, you could say that there's almost no difference between a very simple version of a local meeting and what some people think of as a worshipping group. Apart from whether the worship is public, it seems to come down to how much people are participating in the life of the local Quaker community and in local Quaker business meetings. So perhaps the journey that some people are thinking of moving from being a local meeting to being a worshipping group isn't actually what they need to do. Maybe it's just be a more simple local meeting. Now let's look at some things that are not essential. Well, always meeting in the same place or at the same time, that's not essential. Could we try experimenting with meeting at a different time or in a different place? It might help people to come and grow the meeting. For example, somebody from Swanage meeting explained, a meeting that's not at 10:30 on a Sunday has brought in some other worshippers who cannot make normal Quaker time. Some meetings don't meet weekly, as someone from Grimsby put it. Perhaps not meeting every week helps to get a few more together on the weeks that you do meet. What about meeting at someone's home once a month or once every 2 months? You could combine these with eating and a discussion, perhaps some business. Eating together before or after worship seems a common way for smaller meetings to build their togetherness. And it also works for larger meetings. Now, people sometimes say, if I show them that list of 6 essentials, they say, Jonathan, the treasurer is missing from that list. You've missed something off. Well, some small meetings don't use money themselves at all. Their friends make a financial contribution direct to the area meeting, and then the area meeting pays their rent. And a few meetings meet somewhere for free. So these small meetings can have found a way that their few transactions are recorded in the area meeting accounts, or perhaps sometimes in the accounts of another local meeting. This avoids them needing their own accounts or their treasurer, and it avoids the whole process of combining them at the end of the year. And about 1 in 6 local meetings in Britain have a paid bookkeeper, either locally or across the whole area. And not just the big ones, because some small ones do too. Small meetings often organise roles differently. Now, there's another topic in this Simpler Meeting series about roles. So just for now, let's be specific to small meetings. Can we be more flexible? Can we spread the tasks to better match the people available? Instead of having fixed stacks of tasks for one role and for another role, can we get them out on the table and see who could do which? We can still have a discernment and nomination process for those combinations, but maybe we'll find the combinations in a different way. A few small meetings have a team of 3 that cover the main functions between them. They could be perhaps a clerk, an elder and a treasurer working as a team. Burnham-on-Sea meeting has a correspondent. They share the pastoral care and spiritual nurture, and one friend is the treasurer. Having elders or people appointed as pastoral care friends aren't essential in each individual meeting. And I was surprised to learn that about 1 in 3 meetings in Britain have some form of corporate or shared approach to pastoral care or spiritual nurture. Many meetings share the clerking role between more than one person. Doncaster meeting has a 4-person clerking team that they find is working well. Someone from Ely meeting put it like this: consider not feeling obliged to fill every role. Get the area meeting to consider what it can do to help your smaller meeting and release the joy having reduced the burden. Can an element of the tasks be done by someone who's paid, such as bookkeeping or maintaining the property or handling lettings? Now, a little bit about decisions. Small meetings can find decision making works a little differently. Someone from Ayrshire meeting said, our meetings for worship for church affairs are short and simple. We are able to be flexible and responsive if required. From Bethnal Green, it's quite informal, with infrequent and also relatively informal business meetings. The process by which we make decisions still feels in the Quaker tradition. In Great Yarmouth, they have 2 planned business meetings per year, saying, where a formal decision is needed in the interim, we arrange a meeting moment immediately after meeting for worship and deal with just that one item. Interesting. Well, you may find that you just can't go on as a separate local meeting. Some small meetings may discern that the time is right to lay themselves down and join with others in another meeting. It needs careful thought and discussion and discernment with other meetings around. There can often be lots of support from other local meetings in this phase, and plenty of use of good Quaker processes and practices. Someone put it to me like this: amalgamation can permit survival and also promote new stimulus. You might continue meeting as a satellite meeting, joining with a neighbour to become one local meeting with 2 venues, as I was explaining earlier. Brecon meeting recently decided to become a satellite of their larger neighbour. You might stay as a local meeting, but arrange to do some things with other local meetings like learning or discussions, socials, sharing some roles, or having some buddies for some roles. Some meetings undertake their witness together. Wimborne meeting and Poole meeting share a sanctuary group working with refugees and asylum seekers. So do Doncaster and Balby meetings. Someone told me some friends from other meetings come along to our meeting now and then, which is great. Would it be good for a small meeting to pair with a larger one, or 2 small ones to pair up? Being nearby may be the most important thing. For example, someone from Shoreham by Sea says, we can link up with the larger Worthing meeting for fellowship and taking part in any other activities. We share a regular newsletter. Some areas cluster several meetings together and deliberately do more things together. Another way to simplify is to meet without a meeting house. It's probably the biggest way I've found in the Simpler Meetings project that a meeting can simplify how it runs. Some meetings find having a meeting house brings lots of benefits and is really worth all the effort involved, and others have concluded that they don't. They find they can meet and thrive without a meeting house. You can find lots of ideas to use when meeting without a meeting house in another topic in this series, but here are a few highlights. Did you know that 30% of local meetings in Britain don't have to look after a meeting house? It's about 1 in 3. it's quite common. You could even say it's quite normal. Here's that chart we started with, this time showing all the meetings without a meeting house in orange. You can see there are lots of middle-sized meetings like this, quite a few small ones, and some in that largest 10%. Overall, it's about 1 in 5 of all Quakers at worship on a Sunday in 2019 are not in a place where they need to look after a meeting house. And that's not thinking about or including all the midweek meetings, the worshipping groups, the other people who are meeting in other places. A friend put it to me like this: if you're struggling to maintain a large and expensive building as a small meeting, then renting a premises takes a huge burden off your shoulders and helps you to focus on the spiritual life of the meeting. Someone else said, enjoy it, let go, concentrate on the bare essentials. Forget the library. There are lots of other ways to share books. Somebody else said, focus on what you will gain and not what you will lose. And another, a meeting is the people, not the building. So this might be an option to consider seriously. And there are other options, like paying a person or an organisation to help look after your building. Now let's look and turn to look at things from the area meeting perspective. Are we open to different ways of meetings filling roles or doing tasks? Can we reduce what must be done by each local meeting by sharing or grouping or deleting some things? Can we handle some topics jointly? Here's an example. In West Somerset, Taunton Meeting has run outreach events like Quaker Quest, and then they've taken that out to outlying smaller meetings who may not be able to organise a whole event, but do have 1 or 2 friends who can take part. Some area meetings are considering having a framework for learning, understanding and sharing across the whole area, and that might be led by the Eldership and Pastoral Care Group to plan that out and take some of the burden away from friends who are responsible for those things in a small meeting. An example of that is in Devon area meeting. Would it help in your area to have clusters of local meetings and worshipping groups? Can we appoint some shared roles between meetings? Perhaps have a trustee who is the link trustee for several meetings. As one friend gently put it, slightly lower expectations of what our meeting can realistically do or contribute would help. Could we, as an area meeting, organise some premises maintenance across several meeting houses, using the same tradespeople or using a property management organisation for some things? The crunch of this is an area meeting is a community. You may need to find time as an area meeting to consciously build that community, coming together without any expectation of organising anything other than just getting to know each other. You might do that through a day event, picnics, outdoor meetings, a residential weekend. And those will allow some friends in smaller meetings to take part and get to know one another. And now just a few final tips from a survey I did of Quakers in small meetings. Here's what they said. Do what you can. Share the load as much as possible and don't do what is not essential. Someone else wrote, only do anything else if someone really wants to. If you cannot do it joyfully, there is no point. And focus on what you can do and just let the rest go. I remember someone saying once that George Fox didn't call friends to set up monumental structures. He called us to wait in the light and be faithful. Someone else wrote, find your own way. Look for allies, do what you can. And don't be frightened of breaking the rules, looking elsewhere for nurture and support, to enable you to keep your own small meeting going, regardless of the area meeting boundaries. Get out into the big Quaker world, Woodbrook, BYM, Quaker Life, because it will give you a whole new perspective and purpose. And someone said, always give priority to worship and spiritual nurture over the more bureaucratic activities. There's an exclamation mark at the end of that one. Don't worry if it feels messy. Encourage participation in very small ways, with the emphasis on very. Enjoy what you have and treasure what you already offer. It's more than you can imagine. I hope you find some of these ideas helpful so that your meeting can run more simply. You might like to watch this video together in your meeting as a starter for a discussion. Thank you, friends.